So, how did you get on? Did you manage to solve the puzzle of Duneroamin? Well, whether you did or whether you didn't, whether you found it frustrating or not, rest assured in this video I am going to provide the solution. And as with all good adventure games, especially from the 8-bit era, the way in which it's going to work will require a map. Yes, this is my map that I produced as part of finding the solution to the puzzle. Map might be slightly overstating it, but certainly it's a plan that helps you work out what sequence of steps to take in order to distribute the fuel across the planetary surface in the right order so that you can make that one complete circuit from start to finish, find the survivor and make it back to base without getting eaten by those pesky sandworms. So in this video we'll be looking at my map and also then trying out the solution on the Beeb itself. So this is my map. Looks a little bit cryptic, as you can see here. It's got lots of arrows and different colours and ups and downs and lefts and rights, and then some sort of scrawled green text here. But I'll be honest with you, this is the finished article because, well, I started off with something that looked a bit more like this. The crazed scribblings of a madman. This was me attempting over multiple evenings to try and figure out how on earth was this going to actually be solved. And well, yes, you can see that my attempts ran to several pages worth of notebook, and eventually you can see, look, there's a tick here. Look, oh, this was a good one. I think this was the the full circumference solution bit here. That was a bad one. Look, there's an X there. Scribble, yeah, probably just testing my biro. This bit, I thought I'd got a solution, and then I realised I was picking up more fuel dumps than I had remaining. That was good. Lots of scribblings out, of course. This is a real mess here, but I think you'll notice a little tick mark here. I think this is where I might have got one half of the solution working properly. But to be honest, I mean, I don't know what was going on here. And then here, there's like a Pac-Man doodle going on, I think. And then I attempted a bit of algebra. I mean, that's always a bad sign, isn't it? If you start breaking off into algebra, I mean, I think you know that things have really gone wrong. But anyway, yes, so this map was actually, this was really where the sort of definitive solution was mapped out. But I think in order to sort of try and make this a bit easier to follow, we might try something a little bit more than just the sort of hand-drawn article here. But I'm sharing it with you in full transparency that this is how I reached my solution. Alright, so to try and bring this solution to life a little bit, what I'm going to do is have my trusty Beeb emulator on the right hand side here, and in fact in here we're going to have Duneroamin loaded up, and then on the left hand side I'm going to have my digital version of my hand-drawn map, but I've set this up in such a way that I can step through it step by step, hopefully in sync with what's happening on the right in Duneroamin. Main reason is because it hopefully illustrates how the solution works whilst also proving that it does indeed work. Because if I just step through the solution on paper, you don't have any assurance that it actually works for the real thing, so I thought I'd do both at the same time. Also, it helps me keep track of where I am as I walk through it. So, as we see at the start, we've got our 23 fuel dumps worth of fuel. So you can see my 23 fuel dumps, and I can travel 4,000 kilometers, which is exactly how we've got things set up at the start here on the map. Now, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up a fuel dump. So I'm going to use the get command here, and if I re-execute my look command, you can see now that I've reduced the number of fuel dumps at base down to 22, which is witnessed here on the map as well, and I can travel a total of 12,000 kilometers, which again we can see here. Now I'm going to color code my map, so if you see blue, that means that I'm either already or I'm about to head away from base, and if you see red, it means that I'm going to be heading back towards base. Doesn't necessarily mean I'll get all the way back to base when it's red, but that's what red should indicate. So blue is away from base and red is heading back towards base. So there we go, we've got my 12,000 kilometers worth of fuel in the tank, and the next thing to do is to go west, which we will do here in Duneroamin, and you can see I've got 10,000 remaining, and I'm at the 2,000 kilometer west of base position. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop my my 8,000 kilometers worth of fuel. So you can see here on the map I've now got this black line here obviously indicates which fuel dumps are where. So I've got one west of base, and I've only got 2 remaining in my tank, which is the case here. You can see I've got 2,000 kilometers remaining, and so the only thing I can do other than get eaten by sandworms is to head east again back to base, which as you can see illustrated on the map here. Now I am back at base. I've got 1 fuel dump deposited at the 2k west of base position, 22 fuel dumps left at base, and nothing in my dune buggy. So far so good. So the next thing to do, having achieved this much, is I'm going to need to pick up some more fuel. Now, I'm going to use the facility of Duneroamin here, where I essentially write out a series of commands in a single line. But before I do that, I'm going to save my position, just in case I get this bit wrong, so I don't have to repeat what I'm about to do. So I've saved my position, and in line with the map, I'm going to get 2 fuel dumps, so hence 16,000 kilometers worth of fuel from a starting position of 0, so I pick up 2. That'll obviously reduce the base amount to 20 if I do that. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go 2 spaces east, so east-east in Duneroamin, and then having reached the 4k mark, I'm going to drop a fuel dump. As you can see here on the map, that will result in 1 fuel dump at the 4k mark east of base, and then I'm going to go back to base again, so that would be west-west. Now, I've written all that out in a single line, and that means that when I press the return key, you can see that it carries out them each of those steps in sequence, and as you can see, surely enough, I get back to base finally with 20 fuel dumps at base and nothing left in my tank. Now, the main reason I've done that, other than just demonstrating how the game works, is that I need to actually repeat that set of steps 5 times. So I've already done it once. That's where we've got to at this point in Duneroamin, but you can see here that I actually need to do it a total of 5 times. So having done it once, what I can do is I can use the again command. So we've done it once, now we've done it twice, now we've done it 3 times, 4 times, and finally 5 times. And lo and behold, I'm now in line with my map again, so I've got 12 fuel dumps at base and nothing in my tank. But the result of all of that is that I've now got 5 fuel dumps at the 4k mark. And I'm going to save my position once again, so in case I make any mistakes from here on in. So we've got that far into this sort of subquest, and the subquest, which I probably should have stated early on, is to try and get 1 fuel dump to the 12k mark east of base and 1 fuel dump to the 4k east of base. This is actually one of the few clues that Alice gave in her follow-up paragraph. She never gave a solution, but she indicated that if you managed to get 1 to the 4k and 1 to the 12k mark, you were along the right lines. Now, this is actually something I had worked out on paper already, but it was nice to see it being confirmed in that follow-up paragraph. So anyway, we're on our way, but we've still got a distance to go just yet, if you'll pardon the pun. So next step, we're going to pick up 2 more from base. So I'm going to pick up 1 and 2, and then I'm going to head eastwards again, and eastwards again. So I'm going to go past the 4k mark this time. So I'm now at the 6k mark, and I have got 10,000 fuel remaining, as it shows here. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to drop 8,000 of that fuel. So if I look, I've now got a fuel dump at the 6k mark, as it says here, and I've only got 2,000 left in the tank. So again, as before, with only 2,000 left, you've got 2 options: get eaten by sandworms by carrying on east, or head backwards. So we go backwards to the 4k mark, which, as it says here, has got 5 fuel dumps, and we no longer have any fuel left to travel anywhere. However, I have 5 fuel dumps at the 4k mark, which means that I can very easily pick up 2 of them. So I'm going to pick up a couple of those, and you can see that I've now got only 3 remaining at the 4k mark now, but I can travel a total of 16,000 kilometers as per my map here. So next step is to go east. That takes me to the 6k mark, and I'm going to go east again. That takes me to the 8k, and at the 8k I'm going to drop a fuel dump. So I've now got 1 at the 8k mark, 1 at the 6k, and still 3 at the 4k mark. And now I'm going to need to go backwards, so I'm going to go back to the 6k mark, that gives me 2 left, and then back again to the 4k mark, where I can once again return to my 3 fuel dumps, and I've got no fuel left in the tank. So the most sensible thing to do is once again pick up a couple of fuel dumps, which reduces my 4k now to 1 fuel dump. Now, in line with Alice's advice, I shouldn't technically pick up any more fuel from the 4k mark if I'm to keep track with the sort of sub goal of getting 1 to the 4k and 1 to the 12k. So I'm online to do that, and I've got the of those 3, I've now got the other 2 in my dune buggy. So the next thing I'm going to do is head east, and head east. And I'm going to drop another fuel dump. So now I've got 2 fuel dumps at the 8k mark, as we can see here, and a total of 4,000 kilometers worth of fuel left in the tank. So now I'm going to head west, and I'll be at the 6k mark, but I am not going to go back to my 4k mark with those last 2,000. Instead, I'm going to pick up a fuel dump from the 6k mark, and that gives me a total of 10,000 kilometers worth of fuel in my tank, and I've exhausted obviously the fuel dump at the 6k mark now. That gives me enough to continue east again, and you'll notice that it automatically refills when it gets to this point, because of course I need that extra fuel. So at this stage, I have now got 8,000, because that's basically what I've been able to pick up. So if I look here, we can see that there are 2 fuel dumps at the 8k mark, and I can travel 8,000 kilometers. So next step is to pick up another one of those, which now means that I've got 16,000 kilometers worth of fuel, and only 1 remaining at the 8k mark. Now with the 16, I can go east and east again, which takes me to the magical 12k mark. And I've got 12,000 fuel in the tank, which means I've got enough to drop 8,000 worth of it, which of course means I've now got a fuel dump at the 12k mark and 4,000 kilometers worth of fuel left. I can go back on myself with 2 of the 4k, and I can go back on myself again, and although I've now run out of fuel, I'm at the 8k mark, and at the 8k mark there is a fuel dump which I can get, and with that 8k I can now make my way all the way back to base again. So I just need to go west, 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 and that takes me back to base. So I've now got 1 fuel dump at the 4k mark east of base, 1 at the 12k mark east of base, and 10 remaining at base itself. And that takes me to another little clue that Alice gave, which is that if you have managed to get your 1 to 4k and your other to 12k on the eastward side, then you should have at this stage 10 fuel dumps remaining. And with those 10 fuel dumps, so she says, you should be able to complete the overall mission. And I'm going to level with you at this point. This is the part of the solution that really foxed me, and is the reason why it took me so long to eventually get a full solution. I actually managed to get the 1 to 4k and another to 12k quite early on, although it actually then left me with less than 10 back at base, which of course made things even harder. But I did eventually get to the point where I had 10 fuel dumps left at base, and the 1 at 4k and the 1 at 12k on the east side. But I just couldn't get my head around how, with just 10, which is obviously less than the half of the 23 that we started with, you could somehow essentially repeat the exercise from this side on the other side. Because by my reckoning, you needed to have got 16,000 kilometers worth of fuel at the 12k mark on the westward side if you were to have any hope of connecting up with the 12k of fuel on the eastward side. The fuel dump at the 12k mark on the eastward side, because you need 16,000 kilometers worth of fuel to be able to make that loop around to the 12k mark on the east side if you're traveling in a westward direction. So how it was possible to get the fuel into the not just get a fuel dump to the 12k mark, but also arrive at the 12k mark with 8,000 in the tank, so that when you pick up that dump at the 12k, you've got a total of 16. I really found that almost an impossible challenge, and this is the point at which I thought, I think Alice has pulled a fast one here. I don't think that this is actually possible. And that's also why I ended up with all those scribblings in my notepad like a crazy person. But anyway, suffice to say, it is doable, and I'm going to show you how. The key, believe it or not, is actually with this fuel dump that we left at the 2k mark west of base at the very start. That is actually the key to the whole thing. Now, to make things easier to follow, I'm just going to shrink that sub-quest that we've just completed. So you can still see that we've got our fuel dumps where they need to be, but we don't need to see all of the detail of that now because we're moving on to the sort of second part of the solution. So I'm going to take 2 fuel dumps. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to save my position, just so in case anything goes wrong. And I'm going to take 2 fuel dumps from base. So I've now got a total of 8 left at base, and I can travel 16,000 in total. So now I'm going to head west. I'm going to head west. And at this point, I'm going to drop. And then I'm going to head east. And I'm going to head east. So I'm now back at base once more, and I've managed to deposit 1 at the 4k mark. Now, I've just realised that actually, because the solution works in a sort of similar way to the one that we were working on the opposite direction, this exercise needs to be carried out 4 times in total, and I've only done it once. So actually, what I really should have done is made use of the good old again command. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to restore my position back to where I was just now. So we'll reverse that and go back to where I was at the start here. So I've got the 10 at base, so I'm going to pick up 2, and then I'm going to go, just make sure I get this right, I'm going to go west, west, and drop, and then east, east. So that's my series of commands that I need to carry out. So I'm going to do that, and that will now get me to the position that we see here with 8 fuel dumps remaining at base and 1 deposited on the 4k mark. And I need to do that a total of 4 times, not 5 times, as we did on the eastward direction. So I've done it once, which means I need to do it 3 more times. And now I am where it says I should be on the map. So I've got 2 at base, which is correct, and nothing in the tank. But I've now deposited 4 at the 4k mark. Now, you must already be thinking, well, hang on. If we needed a total of 5 at the 4k mark previously, how are we going to manage to do the same thing on this side with only 4? Well, actually, we are going to get 5 onto the 4k mark, but we're going to do it in a rather clever way. So I'm going to take the remaining 2 from base, which is already starting to look a bit perilous because that means, hang on, I've got no fuel left at base anymore. I've got 16,000 in the tank, but this is it now. I'm not coming back to base until I've done a full loop of the entire planetary surface. And it seems like that's not possible from this point, but bear with me, it really is. So again, I'm going to save my position, just in case anything goes terribly wrong. But with my 16, I'm going to go west, and I'm going to go west, and I'm going to drop. And you might be thinking, well, hang on, I'm just doing exactly the same thing again as I've just done for the previous 4 times, because now I'm going east. But you see, at this position we have cunningly secreted a fuel dump at the very start, which I can now pick up, giving me a total of 10,000 in the tank, 2,000 kilometers west of base. So I've now picked up that fuel dump, which means that I've managed to secure 5 fuel dumps at the 4k mark without having to come back to base on the 5th occasion. Now I can carry on going west again, and at this point I obviously get down to 8,000, so I refill my buggy with the tank that I'm carrying, so I've got 8,000 in the tank, and at the 4k mark I can pick up 1 of those 5. So you can see now there are 4 remaining at the 4k mark. I've picked up 1 of them, and that gives me a total of 16,000. With that 16,000, I'm now going to carry on going west. West again. And at the 8k mark, I'm going to drop 1 of them. And then head back east. and east. So I'm now back at the 4k mark once more, but I've now deposited 1 at the 8k. Now, from the 4 that I had at the 4k mark, I'm going to pick up 2 of them. So that gives me another 16,000 in the tank with 2 remaining at the 4k mark. I'm going to go west and west again and drop again. I'm going to go east and east. So now I'm back at the 4k mark once more with 2 fuel dumps and nothing left in my tank, but I've managed to drop 2 at the 8k mark. Now I'm going to take those final 2 at the 4k mark, do a quick save just to make sure nothing goes wrong at the last moment. So I've now got 16k in my buggy, and the only fuel dumps remaining on the west side now are those 2 that I've left on the 8k mark. So let's go west again to the 6k, west again to the 8k where those 2 fuel dumps are, and west again to the 10k mark. Now I'm at the 10k mark with 10,000 in the tank. I'm going to drop 8,000 of it, which gives me just 2 left. Need to be very careful obviously at this point not to go west anymore. So I'm going to go east back to the 8k mark where I've got those 2 fuel dumps. I'm going to pick both of them up. So now I'm at the 8k mark, I've taken both fuel dumps and I've got 16,000 in the buggy. Now I'm going to go west once more and west again. So I'm now at the 12k mark, which means I can drop my fuel tank that I need to do. So I've now got a fuel dump at 12k. I've got 4,000 left in my buggy. I can head east to the 10k mark. I can pick up the dump that I left at the 10k mark, which means that I've now used up the 10k fuel dump. I've got 10,000 in the tank. By going west once more, I reduce it down to 8,000 in total. So I've got 8,000 in my buggy, and there's a fuel dump at the 12k mark, which I now pick up, giving me 16,000 kilometers worth of fuel at the 12k mark, which is exactly where I need it to be in order to complete the game. So I'm going to save at that position, and now I'm going to make my grand westward journey, which you will see on the map. I need to go, I've just picked up, as you can see, in line here with the 16,000, and now I'm going to shrink up everything that we've done up to this point just to make it nice and clear what we're doing. So just to prove that it is possible, so from 12k we go to 14k, from 14k we go to 18k, and then we go further. So now I'm at the 18k and in line with the map, and then from there we go west again. I'm now at the 20k mark. Now, of course, at this point, the planetary surface wraps around, so if I'm 20,000 kilometers west of base, it also means I'm 20,000 kilometers east of base. And at this stage, I've still got 8,000 in the tank. And now, by carrying on westward, I'm now starting to show up on the eastward side. So I'm 18 kilometers east of base by traveling west. Now I am at the 16k. And look, I've actually found the survivor. So I've actually dug around and found him. So dynamically, the survivor has shown up at this point, and I am 14, as it says here. Actually, I should probably nudge that further across. I am 14,000 kilometers east of base, and I've got another 2,000 left, which happily takes me to the 12k mark. So although I've run out of fuel, I'm at the 12k east of base mark now, which means I can pick up that fuel tank. And I've got another 8 to play with. So I need those 8. I'm going to carry on going west. Carry on going west. Carry on going west. Carry on going west. And lo and behold, I have reached the 4k mark with that final fuel dump that I needed to be in that position. You can see a fuel dump and you can travel 0. So I'm going to get the fuel dump, as it says. That gives me 8, another 8, so I've got 8 in the tank, nothing left in the fuel dump territory. I can go west, I can go west again, and lo and behold, I have got back to base. I've got 4,000 kilometers of fuel left in the tank, which is exactly the amount that I had at the very start of the game, and I have made it all the way around the planetary surface, and mission accomplished, because I've got my survivor back to base. So there you have it. That is the solution to Duneroamin. I hope that the sort of dual map mode along with the actual game help to make sense of how that actually works. It's a very cunning game. It really did absorb me for the last couple of weeks, not just sort of trying out things on the game itself, but also quite a lot of background processing in my head, just trying to grapple with it, and hence all the crazy notes that I was making along the way. But I got there eventually. And I really would love to know whether anybody else has managed to solve this, and perhaps maybe if you solved it in another way. Obviously there is another solution, which is the mirror of the one that I've done, because you could, instead of starting off west and then heading east and then heading west again, you could do it in the opposite direction, east, west and then east. So it is possible to do it in the other way, because it's a loop. But other than that, if there's another solution that you've come up with, perhaps one that doesn't use up all 23 fuel dumps, that would be interesting to know if that's possible. I'm not sure that it is, but I don't hold myself out as the expert. I found a way to complete it, and it certainly works. So yes, any other solutions that might be out there, I would love to hear from you. And in general, please do let me know what you thought of this sort of pair of videos. I was trying to find a way of bringing a type-in listing to life, because they are not always the easiest to bring into a sort of video format, because it's mainly just text on a screen. So do let me know if you found this fun. If you'd like to see more of this sort of video, I'm very happy making them, because I love type-in listings. But equally, if you thought it was a bit boring and not the sort of thing that you enjoyed, then I just as readily hear that feedback too. I won't waste time making more videos like this if that's the case. But either way, whatever you think, please do leave some feedback in the comments. If you've enjoyed the video, do feel free to like it. And if you're not already subscribing by this point, do give me a subscribe. It really helps keep up the motivation for making these videos and others like them. But for now, I'm going to leave it there. I hope you've enjoyed this solution video for Duneroamin. And why not go and try out the solution for yourself, just to see and prove that it does in fact work. So that's it from me for now. I'm going to leave it there, and until the next video, goodbye.